ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ जी का खालसा ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ जी की फतेह। सो हौली हौली संगतां आ रही आ कैंपस हौली हौली आ रहे सारे सवेरे अमृत वेले तो बाद आसा की वार तो बाद तो जिहड़ा अज मेरा लैक्चर होना आ जिहड़ा मैं कोशिश करना आ तुहाडे सामने पेश करन नूं ये ज़्यादा तो ज़्यादा इंग्लिश होना आ क्योंकि जसपाल सिंह उन्होंने कहा कि अपने काफ़ी बच्चे हैगे आ सियाणे भी हैगे आ जिहड़े इंग्लिश नूं थोड़ी प्रोमिनेंस दिंदे आ। हुण ओहदे विच साडी भी गैर हाज़री आ थोड़ी जी तां असीं कर भी नहीं सकते कुछ क्योंकि संदेश दे विच अज दे दुनिया दे विच आपां पहलां इंग्लिश वी लर्न इंग्लिश फर्स्ट राइट फ्रॉम डे वन एंड लाइक हरमन सिंह was saying we think in English अपनी जिहड़ी सोचनी आ वो भी इंग्लिश दे विच होगी। सो मेरे वंगर दा कोई थोड़े सामने थोड़े खड़ा आ मेरा जन्मपाल इंग्लैंड का आ मेरे पेरेंट्स से भी जन्मपाल इंडिया चो बाहर होया आ। सो उन्होंने दे भी सोचनी जी इंग्लिश सोच के सो असी जी भी कोई चीज़ कहनी आ उन्होंने पहला इंग्लिश सोच के फिर पंजाबी च कन्वर्ट करके फिर कहते हैं। सो वो कई बारी थोड़ा जहा इधर उधर किंतु परंतु हो जाती है। सो शुरू करन तो पहला जेड़ा मैं थोड़े सारिਆਂ तो माफ़ी चाहता हाँ कि मेरी पंजाबी इन्नी गुड़ी नहीं है इन्नी सरल नहीं है। सो जो मैं पंजाबी च बोलूँगा तो जे कोई इधर उधर घट वध लफ्स हो गया तो मैनू प्लीज़ अपना पुत समझ के अपना भरा समझ के मैनू माफ़ कर दिओ। तो इत्थे सानू सारिਆਂ ਨੂੰ आ कि वी all need to try to speak not just better Punjabi but also better English. Ek cheez, one thing I've seen at this camp, there's with every camp there's pros and cons. And before I start, let me tell you, I'm not a professional camp speaker. Harman Singh sade kol, we've got Manveer Singh, Navreet Singh, Vikram Singh, ਹੋਰ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ on a regular basis will speak at camps like this. And even though when you look at me I'm middle-aged, this is the first camp that I've spoken at outside of England. Lecture ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਕੈਂਪ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਉਹ ਥੋੜੇ ਉਹ ਢੰਗ ਥੋੜਾ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ। So I just want to tell you that because I can't tell jokes. ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੂਜੇ ਹਸਾਓਗੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਵੀ ਨਾ ਕਰਿਓ ਕਿ you waiting for that punchline, it won't be there. So I'll tell you that right now just to disappoint you all. There will be no punchline anywhere. We leave that to Manveer Singh and the other Singhs. मैं एक चीज़ देखी है कि one thing that I saw in a very positive way about this camp is number one is the mixture of jathebandiyan hai. We go to other camps and there's always generally one jathebandi's prominence and others. And I have to thank the sevadar for that, to make that happen. Ki as a panthik taur te, in true honesty, this is a camp that could in the future be called something like Sarbat Khalsa. Because whatever their ideologies are, they can come together and that it gives you a think space. But wherever there's positivities, there's also negativities. The ek cheez main dekhi hai, and I'm not blaming the sevadar at all here, because this is where we have to take our action as well. As campers, as speakers. Hands up who believes कि ਆਪਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ is a ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਨਾਜ਼ਰ ਗੁਰੂ। ਕੌਣ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ ਹੱਥ ਉੱਚੇ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਡੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਨਾਜ਼ਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਅੱਜ। ਸੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਜਾ ਧੰਨ 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 ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਦੀ ਤੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋਏ। It wouldn't make any difference. If Guru Tegh Bahadur ji was here today in human form, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਲੇਟ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ? The organisers sent a message about 1:45 saying that 1:45 everyone come in here. ਹੁਣ 11:05 ਹੋ ਗਏ। ਦੂਜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਆ in our working lives, if we were to have a meeting and the meeting was planned for 9 a.m. and we turned up at 9:30, do you think the people we're having a meeting with, if this was a negotiation for a contract, they would give us that contract? ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ contract ਆ, ਸਾਡਾ discipline ਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਲ, shouldn't the first bit be ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ time ਕੀ ਹੋਵੇ? So this is something, and ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ, don't get me wrong, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ 'ਚ ਢਿੱਲ ਪੈ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ. ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ it's out of our control. In the morning maybe bathroom ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ line ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਆ. ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਕਰਦੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਜਹਾਜ਼ ਲੇਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਡੀ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਟਾਇਰ ਪੰਚਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਕਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਆ. ਪਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਇਸ਼ਨਾਨ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ. All we have to do is from our room we need to come in here, or we need to go somewhere else. So 2 ਦਿਨ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ ਕੈਂਪ ਦੇ. We should all try our utter best that we should make sure that we keep ourselves disciplined. Someone said to me कि India ना सारे बंदे झूठे हैं. And I'm like, don't say that. You can't turn around and say that the whole. He's like, from the driver to any big officer, वो सारे कहते 5 मिनटां तक आउंदे आ, आधा घंटा ला दिंदे आ. If we can bring that discipline into our lives about being at places on time, I promise you, and this is from speaking at experience, and those Singhs here that have had any kind of interaction with me on my personal or my work life will know that if I say let's meet at 9 o'clock, I mean 9 o'clock. The attitude in your mind will be so much more positive. And this is because this is something that was told to me as a young child by Bhai Singh. ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ, that time's never gonna come back. ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਘੜੀ ਗੁੰਮ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਗੁੰਮ ਗਈ, ਉਹ ਵਾਪਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਦੇ ਆਉਣੀ. So when the campers, Jasprit Singh, Sergeant Singh, or all the other campers here, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ leaders ਆ, ਜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇੰਨੇ ਵਜੇ ਮਿਲਣਾ ਆ, let's try and be on time. ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲਣਾ ਆ, ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਆ. We're so lucky our prashada is made for us. So let's try ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਪਾਂ ਰੱਖੀਏ. ਹੁਣ ਦੂਜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਆ, before we go into the presentation, how many people here will say I am a Sikh? ਕੌਣ ਕਹੂਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਾਂ? ਹੱਥ ਉੱਚਾ ਕਰੋ. ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਾਂ. ਹੁਣ ਸਿੱਖ ਦਾ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੀ ਆ? is to learn. So every night after Keertan Sahib, we should have a little bit of a self-analysis ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਆ. If our attitude is when we wake up for Amrit Vela and our mental arms are wide open, कि Guru Sahib आज तुसी मैनू सिखाना है कुछ, you will be ready to learn. But if we have the attitude to say मैनू इन्नियां बाणियां कंठा, मैनू आंदा, मैनू आंदा, मैनू आंदा, your mind is filled with so much that you won't have any progress to learn. So ਜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ, if we're saying ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਾਂ, ਫਿਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਰੋਜ਼. ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਮਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ. But let's start off with the day. Let's think, what are we going to learn? And ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ a very good idea to do is to keep a diary. Now even I've been a little bit tilla at this because my diary mere bag cha, but I haven't filled anything in while I've been in Canada. Try and put something down, your thought process down. Okay, what have I learnt today? ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਅਮਲ ਕਰਨਾ to make sure that works. Bani padni is very important. Bani apply karni apne jeevan nu is very difficult. Very easy to read, very hard to understand. And that's why kal vichar ho rahi sigi Bhai Sahib de naal that listening is very important. The reason why the suniye paudhiyan come before the manne paudhiyan in Japji Sahib. Sunna bahut important hai. We're very lucky that Singhs have gone out of their day-to-day work to organize these amazing camps. And I'll tell you, kei wari na, you think you're like, inna ne aa nahi kitta, bas tinni serial rakhe hoye hai. It's very difficult. And I can tell you that because ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਕੈਂਪ ਲੰਡਨ ਦਾ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਦਾ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੇਲਸ ਦਾ ਸਾਈਟ ਆ, ਵਿਕਰਮ ਸਿੰਘ has been there, 6 ਘੰਟੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਣ ਨੂੰ ਲੰਡਨ ਤੋਂ. That means ਆਟਾ ਥੁੜ ਗਿਆ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ 12 ਘੰਟੇ ਲੱਗਣੇ ਆ ਹੋਰ ਆਟੇ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ. So the organization that these sevadar have to do is utmost respect. So while I'm talking about the sevadar, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸੇਵਾਦਾਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ to actually give me this opportunity to speak, because I don't feel I have anything to share. But my understandings are a little bit different because I am a historian. England ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਭਾਰਾ museum, it's called the Victoria and Albert Museum. ਉੱਥੇ I've been working there for 22 years. And anything I look at when it comes to philosophy is through the arts. So ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ slide ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ, I always turn around and ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਈਏ that I'm going to buy a new pair of trainers. I think you call them sneakers, yeah? I'm going to buy a new pair of sneakers. And we say Navreet Singh is also going to buy a new pair of sneakers. Navreet Singh said, fashion da mainu inna nahi hai. So I'm going to $30 de le lene hai, just something that I need comfortable. मैं कहना मैं क्यों मैं $300 खर्चने हैं. I want the best of the best. बंदे मैनू देखोगे कहोगे तू एडा वड्डा, you can understand what I'm saying. Even though ਅਸੀਂ ਜੁੱਤੀਆਂ ਪਾਉਣੀਆਂ ਆ, we will still compare. And that's because that is our way our mind works. We love comparing. And ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ that we compare Sikhi with other ਧਰਮs. ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, we get a little bit of a problem. Because Sikhi, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Sahib, 550 years, sanu pata hi hai, we celebrated the Gurpurab not so long ago. But when we look at the other dharam, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਹਜ਼ਾਰੋਂ ਸਾਲ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਆ. So what I want you to understand is ਦੂਜੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ, ਦੂਜੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ. And let's just look at England, because if we look at it, even though ਆਪਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਹੁਣ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ England is the center of the world. And even during COVID and all those things, people look at England and say, "Eh ki karde ya? Let's see their mistakes. Fir aapa dekhunge." So even till today, it's seen as the English language, the English culture. It's the center of the world. So je aapa dekhiye कि during the time of Guru Kal, now Guru Kal is the time when from Guru Nanak Dev Ji's birth till the time that Guru Gobind Singh Ji left this earth. So 1469 to 1708, sorry. Us time de vich ki ho raha siga. Now one of the things which is very interesting is Henry VIII at that time was king. Now those of you who study history would understand Henry VIII is still looked at as a very progressive king. We have the Great Plague was at that same sort of time. The Great Fire of London, 1666, addi city ujaarti sigi this fire did. Happened in the same year as Guru Gobind Singh Ji was born. So try and frame that in your mind, because we sometimes feel that Gurbani and the Guru's word is too old. कि ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੌਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ in the 21st century ਕੀ ਆ. ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਗਾਂ ਸੋਚੀਏ, let's go further into Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji's lifetime. ਹੁਣ Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji that lifetime from 1621 ਦਾ ਜਨਮ and ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀ 1675 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀ ਪਾਈ. During that time 1643 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਜ ਮਹਿਲ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ anyone who's been to India would have seen ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਆਗਰਾ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤਾਜ ਮਹਿਲ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਆ ਇੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਇਮਾਰਤ but look at the construction that would have happened in Guru Sahib's time. And what makes it even more interesting is Guru Sahib would have been in Agra during that time. So it shows you the level of global understanding. Jere Singh Cha pinde a tea arrived in Britain during Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's time. England da sab to purana tea house is still there today. The oldest tea house in England was built and running before Guru Gobind Singh Ji left this world. So just frame this, that the world outside of Sikhi was a very progressive world, and we adopted a lot of those progressions as well. Sikhi is a very forward thinking religion. Asi piche nu nahi dekhde. But it shows you that what Guru Sahib is teaching us today, what we can learn from Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's life, we can apply to our life. So when it comes to ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਰਹਿਣੀ ਬਹਿਣੀ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸੀਗੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ a builder would build their house very similar to how Guru Sahib would have lived. Yes, there will be a few differences. There wouldn't have been stuff like Wi-Fi, but Guru Sahib at that time people would go to work, they would earn, they would look after their children would then go to school and educate themselves and become the best of their ability. Now the other interesting thing is that in 1665 the Great Plague killed 75,000 people. Hun je aapa eh sochiye they had a pandemic then, we have a pandemic now. Look how real this is now becoming. So when we look at how Guru Sahib's attitude was and how different our attitude is, this is what the next hour is going to talk to us about. And a very famous company called Hudson Bay, which I'm sure you'd all heard of, was all set up when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Sahib was still on this in human form in 1670. So if vadiyan corporations, vadiyan companies were there then. So when we look at Sikhi, that interaction would have definitely happened from that level. And it shows you कि जेरे नहीं मानते कि Gurbani is a source for today, you look at this and you can say, actually I can take any Shabad, especially of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, and I can apply it to my life today. And that's something that we should be very proud of. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. How do we do darshan of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji? The first thing we think is Dunyavi taur te, let's have a look at where they were born. Yeah? So what do? We go to Amritsar, we go to Guru Ki Mahal, and we look at Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji ਦੇ ਘਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਸਥਾਨ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ. But big but, this image was taken in 2010, 12 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ. ਉਸ time ਤੇ we still had the Tutti Imarat, which is known as the Nanak-Shahi It, of where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was born, and his house was still there. It doesn't exist anymore. During the celebrations of 400 Saal, which was last year, they ਉਹਨੂੰ ਐਨ ਸਾਫ਼ ਕਰਤਾ to make the parkama of the Guru Ghar bigger, and the Gurdwara looks like any other Gurdwara in India. And this is an ongoing problem. ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ that ਛੋਟੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦੇ were bricked alive and the children want to see ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੋਇਆ. We go to Fatehgarh Sahib and that kand is not there anymore. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਲੰਡਨ ਆ ਜਾਓ and I can show you stuff from the Christianity faith, from the Jewish faith, from Islam, which is before Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ 500 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਹੈ, we can't keep that. And this is not even 500 years. So the ਦੁਨਿਆਵੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ on our human form, we want to know, where did Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, where was he born? So we go and see where he was born. That's our first viewpoint of how we can see Guru Sahib. The next thing that we look at is that if we can see Guru Sahib in that way, how else can we understand what he's a little bit like? What kind of character was this amazing form? ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ we can understand ਕਿ Guru Sahib ਦਾ thought process ਕੀ ਸੀਗਾ. But ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ emotions ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ? We can talk about what they're saying in their ਬਾਣੀ. So the next step ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ Guru Sahib ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ? The next step is, let's look at their handwriting. And here you're seeing a Mool Mantar that is written by Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Sahib. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੌਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ we're very lucky, very very lucky that 10 ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਤੋਂ 9 out of our 10 gurus we have handwritings for, ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ that we can authenticate scientific ਤਰੀਕੇ ਤੇ ਕਿ this is from that time and this is from that guru. And this is what makes this really interesting, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋਗੇ, you look at it and you're like, well, this is actually not that difficult to read. Yeah? Now, if I was here and I was writing something and I needed to write something for somebody, I would take my concentration and it would be, you would be able to read. Punjabi ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਾਵਤਾਂ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ will tell us this, ਤਲਵਾੜਾ ਜੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਅੱਖਰ ਮੋਤੀ ਵਾਂਗਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ. That like a gem, that's what ਇੱਕ ਅੱਖਰ would be like. And that's how Guru Sahib would sometimes explain, Siane Gursikhs would explain that the moti, the value you hold of, if I had a bunch of diamonds here, the value you would hold those diamonds at is the value you value ik akhar of Gurbani. That's a very difficult concept. But you look at the way that Guru Sahib has written this and you see the authority in this. You see the passion in the hand. You see the reflexes that even when you're going to the Gurprasad right at the end, the stamp he's approving on that. And you can see the emotion of what Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was like. That gives us a bit more of an insight on what Guru Sahib was. And what Guru Sahib is. Because this lifetime that we're looking at is not a lifetime saying Guru Sahib has now obtained Shahidi. This is Purane Zamane Daya. This is our grandfather. And we're really lucky. If you went to your Christian friends and you said to them, oh, I have a Bible and I can prove that the chapter that Matthew has got, that chapter is definitely written by him. I tell you right now, they would shower you in gold. They would shower you in the best of the best. Because they would be like, this guy, he's really obtained something there. And it's very important that as Gursikhs ourselves, when we start reading Gurbani, we slowly start reading the Gurbani of Hath Likat Pothiyan. Because that gives us the insight to the dynamics of what that Gursikh was who put that Pothi together. And that's the level we want to get to. So when we look at it, is we think of Guru Nanak Dev Ji na char udasiyan. we all know about the 4 travels of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, yeah? And we're embedded that from, you know, Punjabi school 101 to everything. Guru Sahib ne 4 udasiyan kittiyan, Bhai Mardana was his companion, you know, Guru Sahib Makkah gaye, this, that and the other. What we don't talk about is the 4 udasiyan that Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji did. Now, who first here knew that Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji travelled on 4 travels? Honest, be honest. Yeah? Who didn't know? Hun apne kai Singh hage ya? And I'm glad that jede Singha ne haath ucha kitta hai is that those things, because I'd be really disappointed je ohi Singha nu nahi pata hunda. Ke Guru Sahib travelled on 4 long journeys as well. Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji did that. When I refer to Guru Sahib today, it will be about Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji because that is the theme of the camp. And we look at the reason for why did they need to do this? So first of all, I put a few sort of Google map points on the key areas of where Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji travelled. So what you can see, this is all the right hand side towards the north. Now if we can put, I should have actually put one that Guru Nanak Dev Ji did. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's travels were more southern and more eastern. And what was felt that at that time the Sikhi spirit needed to go into the north. So the first journey that Guruji put together was in 1656. 1656, sabto the most important thing is they felt that uthon Singh aa rahe sige. Sangtan were coming from places like Assam, places like Ropar, those kind of areas, but they were feeling that we're thriving from Sangat. Now, if you can imagine, there's a lot of people, we know that as camp which is, Mandeep Singh was telling us, there's about 120 space, and there's about 100 campers. But if you wanted to open the doors to everyone, you'd probably have 500 campers, but there would be no place. So there's certain areas of thriving Sangat, and what happens is you turn around and you say, actually koi na apana agle saal hor launge, ja we'll look at a different part of the country. Jede duro aya, you know, some Sangat have come from as far as you know, Edmonton and those areas. They might say, can you put a camp like this? Kyunki I came here, mainu bahut anand aaya, I'd like the local Sangat to do this. So the real reason was that Guru Sahib had to flourish that Sangat. It was very important that when Guru Sahib went to the north, went to the right hand side of the country, that they focused on not just spirituality but also politically, because they realized Guru Sahib nu odo pata hunda siga that this is going to be a big challenge. We don't talk about the 2 battles that Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji fought. Yeah? We tend to, what we do is we go birth, Shahidi. Or we go birth, Assam, Shahidi. Jeda os gabla time a, odi aapa gal nahi karte. But that is what made that character. Hun je aapa sochiye, if we look at someone of a high order, koi bhi hove, we talk about their birth, and then we talk about once they become that CEO or you know, they take over that professorship and stuff. But what we don't talk about is they talk about university, but where did they go in high school? What was their home practices like? What was their attitude like within one another's Sangat? And this is what these journeys tell us. When Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji gave Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji responsibility ke our eastern regions enanu itthe sikhi apne nu, we need that sach da prachar. And that's where that happened. And the Singhs, the Sikhs that travelled with them, with Guruji, was people like Mata Nanki, Mata Gujari, their brothers as well. So it showed ke nahi siga ke at that time, if you look at other places of the world, Singha nu bhej dinde sige, the men used to go and the women used to stay back. It wasn't that. Why is that? Because Guru Sahib felt कि जिथे सिंघां ਨੂੰ inspiration ਚਾਹੀਦਾ था ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਭੈਣਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ inspiration ਚਾਹੀਦਾ We work as a unit together. And that is a huge downfall in when you look at certain sampradayas, where Singhs can do certain seva but Bibiyan can't. And if we just look at how Guru Sahib is showing us, that Guru Sahib is showing us that actually together we need to work as a unit. And theek a aapa Singhs camp rakhya hoya hai, but the same organization also does family camp or whatever 4 or 5 weeks time, and it shows you as a unit ke kiddan ho sakda. And this is very important ke gallan aapa apne in our same gender, but also how we unite together as well, how we respect each other. Sometimes people say Guru Nanak Dev Ji was a feminist. I would disagree with that, because I say Guru Nanak Dev Ji was beyond a feminist. I think even the feminist rules are still caged in to where Guru Nanak Dev Ji went. So ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚੀਏ, ਅੱਜ today we go to Darbar Sahib, ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਾ ਗੇਟ ਲਾ ਲਏ, ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਗੇਟ ਲਾ ਲਏ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ you can't come in. What would we do today if there was massive gates outside Darbar Sahib and like you can't come in, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ? What would we do? Come on, talk to me, guys. What would we do? Sorry? Hanji? Say a bit louder. Storm the gates. Appa morcha la dunge. Appa flanne jathedar nu liaunge. Yeah? Saying we'll try and show our power. Okay, how can you stop us from going into our darbar? You know, tusi kaun hunde sanu rokan waste. You know, we would start showing our ego a little bit, right? Did you guys know this happened to Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji Sahib? Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji Sahib was stopped. They were stopped from going into Amritsar city. Not even just Darbar Sahib complex. Os time the Sodis stopped Guru Sahib from going in. This is the Guru. But they didn't agree that he was the Guru at that time. ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਲਿਆ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਕਿੰਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੰਗਾਮਾ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, ਕਿੰਨੀਆਂ, imagine if we started a protest there, how many people, you know, we started a small war there, how many people would lose themselves, how many people would turn around and get injured and all sorts of things. But Guru Sahib knew that this is not going to work, and this is not the way that we should act. And sometimes when you step away from the problem, you see the problem in a very different way, because those sodis apne ta na asi sege utthe, na main sega, na tusi sege. We can only see what we know from itihas, what we read, you know, what other pracharaks tell us. But if we look at the inside, the Sodis probably wanted a fight, and they thought, if we have a fight here, we will probably be able to deal with Guru Tegh Bahadhur quite easily, and then that's it, Sadai Raja. Because when it comes to the list of army and the list of, they've come into our home, we're the stronger party here. So when Guru Sahib and the Sangta stepped back, they were all like, well, wait a minute, kind of flopped here, right? Like, what's going on here? We were ready, ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਕਹਿਤੀ, we were so strong, we held our ground, we were ready to go into battle, and this, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ. And some of them at that time, Itihas tells us, were actually laughing as well. ਇਹ ਵੱਡਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਆ. Yeah? So there was that as well, thinking that they've actually won. But what Guru Sahib saw was that actually we can now go away from Darbar Sahib, set up our Sangat, and put in the attributes of what a true Gursikh should be. Now, some historians will also say that the Sodhi family then went to Guru Sahib and said, "Tusi aao," and this, that, and the other. Some say no, it never happened. They waited for the Sodhi dynasty to sort of, the Sodhi family to die, and then Guru Sahib then went into Darbar Sahib after that. But some would also say, which I think is a bit more believable, is that after that Guru Sahib then went and established the city of Chak Nanki, which we can then talk about now. So 1664, from Amritsar, from Bakala, they came back to Chak Nanki and they decided that they need to set up this centre. Hun je aapa sochiye, Guru Arjan Dev Ji set up Amritsar. Amritsar was already set up. ਜਦੋਂ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਦੀ ਨੀਂਹ ਰੱਖੀ ਗਈ, Guru Arjan Dev Ji called all the South Asian prominent leaders and said that we're going to make this city the most progressive city in South Asia. Remember, ਉਸ time this South Asia felt like the whole world. Yeah? Make it the most progressive city and we're all going to trade. So ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ you can go to Amritsar and find certain fabrics or certain spices or certain craftsmanship ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ, ਨੇਪਾਲ ਚ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ, ਕਸ਼ਮੀਰ ਚ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ. They trade in, ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ they trade in Amritsar. It's a lot less now, but it still is. So if there was a need of that, what then happened? So while Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji took residence in the local village, 4 mil da safar siga. Now, in today's day and age, we like 4 mil aata na liya. Yeah? 4 miles is in kilometers, probably about 6 kilometers. Yeah? We just like aata na liya, koi na, it'll take us 10 minutes in the car. Imagine doing that on either foot, horseback. Yeah? It would take a couple of hours for you to get there. And that's what you got to put into your mind, which is very important. Now they served the local Sangat, which was really important because the knowledge was passed. What you have to remember is because the knowledge that was coming from Amritsar was a very diluted knowledge. And that was the importance of why Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had to set up that Dharamsal just outside of Amritsar. Next thing Guru Sahib made sure is that that village has a constant supply of water. Because they also knew that because this village is where Guru Sahib is, they will be at a little bit of arms war with the Sodhi family of that current time. So they had to make sure that that water supply was also there. From this, just this episode that's just happened, to recreate, Guru Sahib was refused entry to Darbar Sahib. He went to Pind Walia, and uthon they set up their Sangat again, and utthe unhone choti dharamsal bana li, made sure that they've got a water supply. What can we learn from this? ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਜੇ Guru Sahib turned around and said, okay, gate khadate, we're not going to go into that. Morcha kariye, ithe will do hunger strikes, will do this, that and the other. By doing that, where would we have lost our energy? Our spiritual development would have taken a massive hit. And at that time, Guru Sahib did not want our spiritual development to take that hit. Now what can we learn from this? Us time te vi morche kar sakde sige, as time te vi morche. When in our morche, how do we make sure that our spiritual development is still there? And this is very important. कि जिथे आपां हक दी लड़ाई लड़नी है, but sometimes we'll find that our freedom fighters are fighting for freedom, but there is no Sikhi inside them. And where can we learn from? Kal Bhai Navreet Singh ne vi sanu sakhiyan sunaiyan sigiyan. One thing Bhai Navreet Singh didn't do then is say, when that happened, those good Sikhs that we were talking about, a lot of them are in our parents' lifetime. A lot of them are in our lifetime. So this is talking 20, 30 years. They were still fighting at the front of their line, but their Sikhi was very, very, very important. Sometimes we feel it's cool to wear certain t-shirts. Sometimes we feel it's cool to mention certain places because they've become pop culture names. But do we really understand what that means? Are we really citizens of that place? Are we really valued in ourselves to turn around and say कि असी हक दी लड़ाई लड़ सकते हैं? Guru Gobind Singh Ji's army teaches us that just like we have a rank system here, and in any way, and Veerji could tell us where, I don't know where he's gone. There's one Singh here who's from the army, but they can tell us how there is a rank system. Just how that rank system works, it's a very similar in Guru Sahib's way as well. A certain way that you would understand Bani first, become saral on your Bani, understanding it, applying it, and then you would go up and up and up, and that's when you would be on that first line. We live in a world where it's very easy. If I have a question today, I put it into Google. If I want to turn around and see how far am I away from home, I type in London, they'll be like, okay, you're like about 4,000 kilometers away or whatever. It's very easy. And we feel that apne Sikhi te bhi hai na, we should have that. We want that Sikhi search engine. Main pyar kiddan paal sakda mere life de vich. I want to put it into the engine and be like, shabat pad, bas. Aapa ek wari pad ke we'll like, theek hai, bas. Sadi ta bahut kirpa hogi. It's not like that. Prani the siane Gursikh ithe dasuge, prane Punjabi di kahavat tha ke haath te saro jama ke dakha. Yeah? Try and grow mustard on your hand, and your hand will get tired before it sprouts. And it's known as one of the fastest speed plants. So the situation you have to remember is that our journey, when we look at it and we compare it, we can't compare it to Guru Sahib. But if we compare it to the Sikhs of that time, there was a reason why they decided to go to that village and curate that small ashram, that small dharamsala there, because they wanted to be, they believed that actually understanding Guru Sahib and understanding what Guru Sahib is trying to say is very important. So the third journey, which is the time when they established the city of Chak Nanaki. Has anyone heard of this? Hath khade kar lo. Okay? Thalle kar lo. Who's never heard of this? Kade nahi sunaya ke kehdi jagah hai? Yeah? Chak Nanaki is the city that then became Anandpur Sahib. So when Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji established this city, it then became Anandpur Sahib, and that was the importance. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why do I need a city? Darbar Sahib haga utthe, we got Amritsar there. Goindwal Sahib was a very established sort of town from Guru Amar Das Ji's time. We've got this new village that Guru Sahib's just put a water supply in it. Why do we need a city? Koi lod hai sanu? Yeah? But this is what it became very interesting, because Guru Sahib wanted to make sure that these attributes in a city are there. So the first thing that we have to think about is when I'm setting up a city, like, I don't know if Canada has any new built cities, but England has a new city which in our lifetime we know about it, and it's called Milton Keynes. And when they were setting up Milton Keynes, Veerji is not far from Milton Keynes actually, when he used to live in England. But when they were setting it up, it was very interesting to see just a fun fact. The person who put Milton Keynes together, Milton Keynes was his last project, and one of his first projects was Chandigarh. So it's the same person who put that together. So it's just quite an interesting fact. Now the first thing that we need is a defense system. We have to be able to protect that city. Now that might be through walls. Purane kile je tusi aapa dekhiye, ਉਹਨਾਂ they build walls very high. They have bunge very high to showcase, and that is the first form of protection. The second form of protection, the second thing, is our religious centers. Now the religious centers kyon, not just to do part, puja or anything like that, read namaz. It's also because the religious centers is the sense of community. ਆਪਾਂ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਵੇਲੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖ ਲਈਏ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਇਸਲਾਮ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਆ, we go to our religious centers because that is our sense of community, and that's very important. The next thing is how we're going to trade. ਹੁਣ ਆ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਆ, there's one word that puts these three things together. What is that? They will not work without trust. Trust to bagair, you cannot have a security system. If we don't trust our army, ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖੀ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ not so long ago. So if we don't have trust in the army, we can't have trust in our religious centers, and we can't have trust in our trade. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੁਨਿਆਵੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਠੱਗੀਆਂ ਕਰੂਗਾ, what kind of person will that be? ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਠੱਗੀਆਂ ਕਰੂਗਾ, we all know what happens there. So these three things is trust. Now to turn around and implement trust, and we see it in Canada all the time. We have a Gurdwara, it sets up, utte ladai ho jandi, one party goes and builds another Gurdwara. Yeah? And from 5 Gurdwaras, you end up having 45 Gurdwaras. The reason for why Chak Nanki was so important is the prachar outside became so infiltrated that Guru Sahib said we need an area where we can establish this to the best of what we can. The next thing that we needed was law and order. Now that law and order happened with only Guru Granth Sahib Ji as the source. That law and order then also happened in our manufacturer centers. That law and order also happens in our service center. Kisi ne kaam karna. So you can imagine how this city was produced. And up till today, when we look at Anandpur Sahib, we see it as the center focus of Sikhi itself. And then most importantly, that city needed its think tanks. And think tanks are so important, and we're going to talk a bit more about think tanks in a minute. But when we look at how do we back this with Gurbani, and this pankti comes to mind. When we look at Ramkali Ki War, yesterday when we were setting up the fire, Ramkali Ki War was being read as well. And we're looking at this, and Nanak, this is the line in here is Nanak Raj Chalaya. How is this Raj gonna establish? With truth, with honesty, and with very strong foundations. Hun je, going back to my first point, कि जे आपां हुन today आपां ढिल पा लिये, then how are our children? The first point of aspect is they're going to look at us. If our timekeeping is not good, then the children's timekeeping will be like, well, you know what? Dad does that. I don't. It doesn't matter. If I turn up to a meeting 10 minutes late, if I go to the Gurdwara near Anand Sahib time, it doesn't make a difference. So remember that these foundations happen between us first. Je sadiyan assi ਢਿੱਲ ਪਾ ਲਈਏ, then the future is also going to be ਢਿੱਲ. Well, the next thing is, do we feel it's acceptable to accept these kind of gifts? ਹੱਥ ਉੱਚੇ ਕਰੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਠੀਕ ਆ, everything's fine, we can accept them. Who thinks it's not a good idea to accept either one? Hanji? One of them is good. One of them is good? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. ਹੁਣ Guru Tegh Bahadur ji ਦੇ time ਤੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ that Guru Tegh Bahadur ji made sure that in the establishment of Chak Nanki that no gifts were accepted. And that became no dunyavi gifts of any kind of food or anything like that, and no power gifts in terms of Shastra as well. And the idea behind that is that we have to establish our city to the level that we can be self-sufficient. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪੰਗਾ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਿ energy lives are going high, you know, energy prices are going so high, ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ pay ਕਰਨਾ ਆ, and then we start looking at renewable energy and how we can get solar panels and all sorts of those kind of things. Guru Sahib was telling us that then, that we need to be self-sufficient. ਆਪਣੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਮੋੜੇ ਹੱਥ ਨਾ ਅੱਡਣਾ ਪਵੇ. And the same thing I would say is when it comes to the camp organizer as well. ਆਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ, you know, the langar, the calling the speakers from abroad, this, that and the other, ਇਹ ਸਸਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਪੈਂਦਾ. It's not cheap. And this is the importance that if we turn around and say, actually, I really enjoy this, we should turn around and say, well, actually, a small section of my daswand should go to a good cause like this. Whether it's this camp, whether it's another camp, whether it's a camp that you're going to set up in your own Guru Ka. ਕਿ ਕਦੇ ਏਦਾਂ ਨਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਵੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹੱਥ ਅੱਡਣਾ ਪਵੇ. Because those Sodis that were running Darbar Sahib at that time, very similar people are running a lot of Guru Kars in this time. Now, this is where we can learn ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਟੱਕਰ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ is not the way, because it's a non-winning battle. The idea is you go away from them, not set your own gurdwara up, but you know, set your own sangat up, have that understanding with each other, and you'll watch that same gurdwara or that same pradhan who said ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੀਵਾਨ ਲਾ ਦਿਓ, ਰੌਣਕ ਲਾ ਦਿਓ ਇੱਥੇ. And this is very important on what we can learn. Now, if we look at the next journey of Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji was imprisoned by Aurangzeb, and Aurangzeb told Guru Tegh Bahadhur, one of his close associates, who was Raja Ram Singh, can you imprison Guru Sahib? Oh, Jaipur da rehn wala siga, so he imprisoned Guru Sahib. And as he imprisoned Guru Sahib, he was like, this is not right. Imagine this. Someone imprisons you, is so affected, his world is so affected by how amazing the presence of Guru Sahib was in his prison, that he turned around and said, I can't imprison you anymore. Took him out, and Guru Sahib even stayed with him for a month. Ajkal ਆਪਾਂ ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣੀਆਂ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, those ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣੀਆਂ go on for ages and ages, and we don't even know where they started. In Punjabi there's a word called shriek, that generations of generations the, you know, issues hundiyan ya, and we turn around and we just, you know, just really mess this really up. So it just shows you that Guru Sahib saw, okay, he's just doing a job. The leader, the ruler of the time has told him to imprison me, he's imprisoned me, but actually banda changa hai. And at the time that Guru Sahib needed his support, Guru Sahib then went and stayed with him. And that's very interesting. He then took, Guru Sahib then went to Assam. Now Assam is an area which is in the North Hills of India, and it's a very hilly area. The ਉਸ time there were a lot of people. Assam was known in the 1600s. Assam was very well known for its jadoo toona. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ, because if you can imagine, if it was all valleys, when the wind would go, it would make like certain noises and stuff, and people would get very spooked. So it's very well known for its like black magic and those kind of things. So Aurangzeb turned around and he put a group of people together saying that, look, I've got a huge problem here. I need to get into Assam, but no one's ready to go in there. When Raja Ram Singh heard about this, they then turned around and they took Guru Sahib with them. And at that time, what you have to remember is Guru Sahib led a fight against that, to understand what Assam was. And even till today, there's a beautiful Gurdwara called Doabi, Doabi Sahib, still there today. Darshan kitte hoya, and it shows you about the time that Guru Sahib spent his time in Assam, and it's a very hard place to live in because the humidity is very high and it's very muggy. So ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਾਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ, that's what Assam's like. But Guru Sahib has said, and some of the Janam Sakhis around Guru Sahib's time have said that that was one of his most precious times of the time that he spent there. And all those people, all that myth of this is where all the Jadoo Tuna and stuff happens was not really that true. There were a few people up in the foothills, but they then sort of dispersed very quickly because they felt that Guru Sahib's energy was much more stronger. Now, when we're talking about Aurangzeb, I wanted to show you one thing, because in the museum in London, we have one of Aurangzeb's talwars. So this is the talwar that used to belong to Aurangzeb. Now, what's very interesting about this is in the middle, there's a little notch. And that notch is quite interesting because I'm not an expert on Shastra, but ਕਈ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਆ ਕਿ what used to happen is ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਨੋਚ ਆ ਨਾ ਪੁੱਠੀ ਤਲਵਾਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਾ they used to trap it into the nerves system of here so that they could get the person into a cleaner blow. But even if you come today, so even today ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੇ ਲੰਡਨ ਆਓਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣ ਦੀ ਤਲਵਾਰ ਆ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਓ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, and we can it's totally proven. When we look at Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Sahib, how many people knew that Bulle Shah, how many people know who Bulle Shah is here? That's good. Who knew that Bulle Shah wrote about Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji? ਹੁਣ Bulle Shah, ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ, was a very famous, you can call him a poet, you can call him a Sufi, you can call him a thinker of that time. And ਉਹਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਆਪਣੀ ਗਜ਼ਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਲਿਆ ਆ. And in that ghazal, you can't see the actual ghazal very well, but in that ghazal he compares Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji to Ghazi. Ghazi being the highest of high, the most precious of precious. Today the Sufi world see Bulle Shah as a very, very esteemed, poncha hoya poet. And even people like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, majority of his work would come either from Amir Khosrow or Bulle Shah. And a lot of Punjabi folk today has also come from Bulle Shah as well. And when you start reading some of the works of Bulle Shah and you start comparing things, you can see that Bulle Shah's biggest what we would call it inspiration in life was Gurbani. From when he's singing stuff about Naina and Gurbani, we have Nain Mehinje Tarste Katpasi Nida. And I could probably give you hundreds of other examples. So someone on that level who other communities see as their very spiritual person has a huge influence and massively influenced by Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Sahib. That he felt that he could call Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Sahib Ghazi. And the reason why a lot of you might have not heard this is because the community have oppressed this ghazal and have not let it come out. And it's amazing to see how that has taken forward.
Vijay?
Hanji?
Is there any, have they ever met Guru Sahib?
There's no evidence that there is, but if you look at the timing, it wouldn't have happened because Bulle Shah is 1680, yeah, and Guru Tegh Bahadur ji passed away in 1675.
A first one somewhere you are the thief. Positive, negative.
So the when you look at Bulle Shah's works, when you look at Persian, when they look at somewhere you are the thief and somewhere you are the priest. Thief ਦਾ ਕੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਿਲ ਝੋੜ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿਲ ਆ ਨਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਉਹ ਚੋਰੀ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫੇਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਚੋਰੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਆ. So when you look at Persian generally, when you read the Persian language, it's very beautiful in the way that how descriptive it is. ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹੀਏ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਬਾਹਰ ਘਾਹ ਹਰਾ ਆ, the grass is green. In Persian they'll be like that emerald colored grass. So they'll take it very descriptive. And that's why this is very interesting on how this is all put together. And maybe ek din sama miluga ke we can look at this time da sama bhi main thoda dekhna hai that we can look at this in a different way. But then when we come closing to Guru Tegh Bahadur ji Sahib, what would happen is this is again a writing where the first ang of this suroop is written by Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur ji Sahib. And what would happen is Sangat would go to Guru Tegh Bahadur ji and say, Sanu, please kuch bakhsh do. And the parampara would be कि Guru Sahib ने आप अपने हाथ लिखत मूल मंत्र लिख के उन्होंने दान करना. They would treasure that. And जेड़े परिवार were a bit more सूझवान, they would come back and they would write a suroop for Guru Granth Sahib ji. तो जेड़े परिवार इदां सीगे जेड़े didn't feel that they had the quality to write a suroop, ਉਹ ਲਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ. So there's a few suroops out there, ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਪਏ ਆ, ਲੰਡਨ ਵੀ ਪਏ ਆ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਅੰਗ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਹੈ. Now when it comes to attitude, ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨਾ we're in this situation where we love to seek help. Pardon me. ਤਾਂ there's a lot of institutions out there ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ will give you self-help books, ਆਇਆ ਓਇਆ. ਇੱਕ ਬੜੇ ਨਾਮ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਨਾ ਕਾਫੀ like he's always ਖਿਜਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਕੁਛ ਵੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਨਾ, he'd be like no. I'll be like, okay, calm down, yeah. After about a year or so, he would be the guy in the office that no one really talks to. And then all of a sudden he became a lot more friendly. So I sat down with him and I said, what's the change in your life? I was menu bhi thoda siga ke what's happened here. Kana, you know what? Kana, I've found a self-help person. He said I have a subscription to him, and every 3 days he sends me messages and like they little videos, and it really boosts me together and stuff. I'm like, acha, it's a really good thing, right? And he said, and you know what? He said, it doesn't cost me that much. He said, I only pay £400 a month. Yeah? £400 ਇੱਥੇ ਦਾ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ $700 ਹੋ ਗਿਆ. Yeah? Can I only pay £400 a month? Okay, I'm thinking he's going to say £30-40 a month, yeah? Just out of curiosity, can you send me one of, I'm interested in what they're teaching you. So he sent me one page. He sent me this. And I looked at this and I couldn't stop laughing. Because the first thing it says, reboot your brain. Why do we do Amrit Vela? Yeah? ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੱਲ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਰੀਬੂਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ. Then it says, help us unwind. Again, taken from Gurbani. Improve your concentration. ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਵੇਲਾ ਵਧਾਓ ਹੈਨਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵਧਾਓ, ਬਾਣੀਆਂ ਵਧਾਓ, ਅੰਡਰਸਟੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਵਧਾਓ. Make us more productive. Guys, can you see the pattern here now? Yeah? Give space for self-discovery. And I always say this to people. Kei vari we have to go away from the Sangat to get closer to the Sangat. Maaf karno, some people might take this the wrong way, but sometimes Sangat can be the biggest oppressor, because in that Sangat tusi flanne takane di gall kar lende, nindiya chugli all comes into it, and you go away from other things. So sometimes you need to take a few days just to go away from something to get closer into it, to discover yourself. Yesterday we talked about manatu jyot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. You need to understand your own mood first. Allow time for deeper thinking. Guys, do I need to carry on saying ke kinniya connections hagiyan itthe? Aid in problem solving. Dukh sukh aapa share hi karde hain. And the last one where it says enhance your relationship, it's not just with your partner, but also together with your Guru. When we look at an Anand Karaj and we look at Ek Jyot, Doi Murti, two of us that need to go into one and have that one understanding. Gurbani tells us कि कान दो आ पर आवाज एक सुननी आ, अखां भी दो आ, we should have one set of point. ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕ ਲਿਆ, ਬਾਹਰ ਮੈਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਪੰਡਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਾਂ. No. Our senses need to be aligned and we need to have one focus. So when you came in, ਮਨਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਮੈਂ ਠਹਿਰ ਕੇ ਭੇਜ ਦੂੰਗਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ. When we all came in, does anyone recognize this Shabad? I'm a person which is all about experiences, and I like to set the mood for things, and I like to turn around and to see, anyone who ever comes to England to see sade ghar vi aao, it's a very setting the mood or tang hunda hai. It's not I'm not someone who's like I like that. For me, I grew up in classical music, so even if I want to just set my mood, I will listen to Rag Basant and go for a walk, and I'm happy in myself. Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadhur ji Sahib ne aa shabad ucharan ਕੀਤਾ ਆ ਸੋਰਠ ਰਾਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 11ਵਾਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਆ. And in England during the pandemic we decided to set up some videos which I will send links to your sevadars who can send it. And what we did is we took all of Guru Tegh Bahadhur Ji's Bani and we made some videos where we're doing vichar through other historians, people like Gyani Gurdat Singh, Gyani Harbans Singh. We looked at the Shardarat scholars, we looked at that, and it was just small videos on each Shabad. And when it came to this video, the narrator of the video is Bhai Joginder Singh, who does it in English and Punjabi, and they're all available on YouTube. And I looked at this Shabad, and Bhai Sahib looked at this Shabad, and we paused the video, and Bhai Sahib kande ke he's a very interesting character. If you ever get to meet him, he's lovely, but he's a very strong Yorkshire accent. But very good Punjabi. बहुत प्यार करते मनवीर सिंह नाल भी साडे नाल भी. And when we looked at this, he said this could be a checklist. If we look at the checklist, I don't know if it'll zoom in there. We see people all the time. And ਕਿੰਨੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਓ, ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਓ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਫਲਾਣੇ ਨੌਲੇਜ ਆ, ਟਿਕਾਣਾ ਨੌਲੇਜ ਆ, this that and the other. And ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ there's amazing Mahapurkhs out there, and then we also have a lot of nakli babbe as well. And the way this works is if you look at those who are not affected by pleasure or pain or fear, those who see gold and iron as one. Bhai Gurdas ji de ਵਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਖੀਰਲੀ ਲਾਈਨ ਆ, ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ। ਉਸ ਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ talks about what a Gursikh should be like, and it talks about water. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, if I said ਇੱਥੇ what should a Gursikh be like, ਉਹ ਬੱਬਰ ਸ਼ੇਰ ਵਾਂਗਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ ਹੋਣਾ strong as an ox. And when you say, oh, pani, they're like, pani? Look at the properties of water. मैं पानी ਨੂੰ ਤੱਤਾ ਕਰਦਾ, ਉਹਨੇ ਅੱਗ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਝਾ ਦੇਣਾ। ਠੰਡੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਅੱਗ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਝਾ ਦੇਣਾ। So as us, our properties of life should always be like water. Never should they change. Now, question I ask you. Darbar Sahib is an important ਇਤਿਹਾਸਿਕ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ, ਪਰ what we find is pretty much every Gursikh or Sikh house, even ਭਾਵੇਂ ਦੂਜਾ ਵੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਫੋਟੋ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ। ਤਾਂ before photographs there always used to be a painting. Do we know why? ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ it's the most important ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ in the Sikh ਪੰਥ। We're like, well, not really. Are we saying that the Darbar Sahib is more important than Anandpur Sahib or Nankana Sahib? Yeah, but ਅੰਦਰ ਤਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਆ। ਅਰਦਾਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਪੰਕਤੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ, one line comes in ਅਰਦਾਸ, ਚੌਂਕੀਆਂ ਝੰਡੇ ਬੁੰਗੇ ਜੁਗ ਅਜੁਗ ਅਟਲ। And that is the line that should remind us, this is the picture or a picture of Darbar Sahib which should remind us of that line on how we can change ourselves. Chonkiyan, je aj main Darbar Sahib hunda, I wouldn't say mera Keertan da time 6 to 7 a. I would say meri sodar di chonki hai. I wouldn't say I'm doing Keertan in the morning. I'd say meri asa di chonki hai, charan kamal di chonki hai. Chonkiyan are our routine. Chande, we all know what our chande are. We can only fly our chande if what's underneath that institution is eligible of that. So je ਆਪਾਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਝੰਡਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਚੜਾਉਣਾ ਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ, then ਉਹਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਵੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਮਰਿਆਦਾ ਚੱਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ, ਉੱਥੇ ਹੋਰ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੱਲ ਸਕਦਾ। ਚੌਂਕੀਆਂ ਝੰਡੇ ਬੁੰਗੇ are historical towers ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਿਦਿਆ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਆ। This is where our institutions are. So ਚੌਂਕੀਆਂ ਝੰਡੇ ਬੁੰਗੇ ਜੁਗ ਅਜੁਗ ਅਟਲ, that these will stay forever. But whose responsibility is this to stay forever? It's not Manveer Singh's responsibility. It's not Sergeant Singh's responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities. So when we see a picture of Darbar Sahib, we shouldn't think, wow, sone da baniya kinna sona hai. Sanu sochna chahiye chonkiyan chande bunge jug jug atal. Eh sade Guru Sahib ne sade utte, they've given us these responsibilities. Are we worthy of these responsibilities to go? I just want to say thank you to all the organisers. ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਜੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਉੱਚਾ ਨੀਵਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ, ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮਾਫ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ। we're on a learning stage just as we all are. ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਇਆ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਣ ਆਇਆ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋਵੇ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਡੀਟੇਲਸ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੋਵੇ, 2 ਦਿਨ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਮਗਰੋਂ ਵੀ ਈਮੇਲ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਕਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਸਹੂਲਤਾਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ, we can talk from all over the world. So thank you so much. ਅਖੀਰ 'ਤੇ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ 'ਤੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਉਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਫੇਰ ਤਾਂ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਗਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨੂੰ, that would be really nice. ਮੈਂ ਭਾਈ ਪ੍ਰਿਤਪਾਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੂੰ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੀਡ ਕਰੋ ਸ਼ਬਦ 'ਤੇ, ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ। ਜੋ ਨਰ ਦੁਖ ਮੈਂ ਦੁਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਾਨੈ, ਸੁਖ ਸਨੇ ਅਰ ਪੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਕੈ, ਕੰਚਨ ਮਾਟੀ ਮਾਨੈ। ਜੋ नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने हर पै नहीं जाके कंचन माटी माने जो नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने हर पै नहीं जाके कंचन माटी माने जो नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने हर पै नहीं जाके कंचन माटी माने नह निंदया नह उस्तत जाके नह निंदया नह उस्तत जाके लोभ मोह अभिमाना नह निंदया नह उस्तत जाके लोभ मोह अभिमाना हरख सोग ते रहन यारो नाहे मान अपमाना हरख सोग ते रहन यारो नाहे मान अपमाना नाहे मान अपमाना दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने हर पै नहीं जाके कंचन माटी माने जो नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने हर पै आसा मनशा सगल त्याग जग ते रहै निराशा आसा मनसा सगल त्याग जग ते रहै निराशा काम क्रोध जेह पर सैनाहिन तेह घट ब्रह्म निवासा काम क्रोध जेह पर सैनाहिन तेह घट ब्रह्म निवासा तेह घट ब्रह्म निवासा दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुने हर पै नहीं जाके कंचन माटी माने जो नर दुख में दुख नहीं माने सुख सने कृपा जेह नर को कीनी ते एह जुगत पछानी कृपा जेह नर को कीनी ते एह जुगत ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੰਗ ਪਾਣੀ
ਨਾਨਕ ਲੀਨ ਪਇਓ ਬਿੰਦ ਸਿਓ ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੰਗ ਪਾਣੀ
ਗੁਰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਜਿਹ ਨਰ ਕੋ ਕੀਨੀ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਜੁਗਤ ਪਛਾਨੀ
ਗੁਰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਜਿਹ ਨਰ ਕੋ ਕੀਨੀ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਜੁਗਤ ਪਛਾਨੀ
ਨਾਨਕ ਲੀਨ ਭਇਓ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿਉ ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੰਗ ਪਾਣੀ
ਨਾਨਕ ਲੀਨ ਭਇਓ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿਉ ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੰਗ ਪਾਣੀ
ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਸੰਗ ਪਾਣੀ ਜਿਉ ਪਾਣੀ ਜੋ ਨਰ ਦੁਖ ਮੈਂ ਦੁਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਾਨੈ ਸੁਖ ਸਨੇ ਹਰ ਪੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਕੈ ਕੰਚਨ ਮਾਟੀ ਮਾਨੈ ਜੋ ਨਰ ਦੁਖ ਮੈਂ ਦੁਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਾਨੈ ਸੁਖ ਸਨੇ ਹਰ ਪੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਕੈ ਕੰਚਨ ਮਾਟੀ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿਮਰਿਐ ਕਰ ਨੋ ਨਿਦ ਆਵੈ